leaking. And so we've had to take care of that. One thing that we could do, as we have looked into this, my office, is we could bring in a chemical company to do an assessment of what is in these containers, provide that to the court. They could empty those containers, and then we could store the containers. Otherwise, if we are required to leave them as is or even maintain a portion of it, we need to move it out of that exhibit area and move it somewhere else in the building. And so I appreciate the opportunity, Your Honor, of bringing this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. I may have missed, do we have 7 or 8? Is that any questions?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7.
So it's 457, 615, 616, 619, 362, 363, and 625. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
General, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor. I apologize for putting us in this situation.
Okay. Ms. Byrd, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you'd like to say to the court?
Thank you. No, I'm concerned about them being in the building, obviously. I think if they have to stay in evidence in some sort of format, we need to put them in a large container, probably move them into a secured area in the garage that would not be flammable. But, okay, thank you.
And Mr. Hammond, I'm sorry, I did think of a question to ask you. You talked about having a chemical company in to assess that. What do you imagine that would entail?
From what I understand, a chemical company could come in and do a chemical assay. What they would do is they would examine the contents of each of these exhibits. They would prepare for the court exactly what is in those containers, the chemical makeup, and that type of thing. And then if it was okay with the court, we could even ask them to empty those, and we could maintain the containers. But that's an option for the court to consider.
And do you have any idea what time frame we'd be looking at?
I don't know. I haven't contacted anyone. That was just an option that was presented to us.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
General Nasios, would you like to be heard?
No, I mean, one other suggestion I could make is we could take just a sample, a vial maybe, of the liquid in each of the containers and maintain that. I don't know that it's necessary for the county to go to the expense of making an analysis. The defense never bothered to analyze these exhibits. They assumed that they contain what the state alleged they contain. Given the nature of the bodies that were found at the scene, it's obvious that some caustic acidic substance was used. So that's my position.
Thank you. Mr. Halstead, what do you say?
Yes, Your Honor. Our concern was simply that Mr. Guy will be appealing and hoping for a retrial in this matter, and so he did not want to give up any rights by agreeing that something could be disposed of, but then maybe it becomes critical at trial, what was in that, at a new trial, and yet we've allowed it to be disposed. So that was our position in not being able to agree to just automatically dispose of the chemicals.
Thanks. All right, well, it certainly is a unique situation. Before we came in here today, I've been doing some research on it, trying to figure out if there's any precedent for the court to rely on, and I couldn't find anything. Other judges across the state that I've spoken to did not have an answer for me either, which kind of surprised me because surely we've had dangerous substances introduced before. In any event, I think Mr. Hammond's concern is well-founded. These substances were in the custody of the Sheriff's Department for about 4 years and were never tested, so I don't imagine anybody really is concerned about testing those. However, just for the sake of any potential issues in the future, I do think the best course of action is to preserve a sample in a safe way of each of the substances, then have those disposed of, maintain the containers. So, Mr. Hammond, if you'd be so kind as to speak with either the fire department or somebody from hazardous waste, find out how we can accomplish that. I think it'd be cheaper to have somebody from our county to deal with it rather than to hire some private agency to actually go ahead and do the assay if we're not going to ever need it. So what I would submit, and I'm going to do a written order on this too, is I'm going to direct the clerk's office to obtain a sample. It does not need to be large. I may want to check with hazardous waste or the fire department just to figure out how much of this would we need to save if the contents never need to be tested. And I want to save the containers as well once they're emptied, and then disposed of. So I'll put that order down early next week, I think. I'll try to do it today before I leave. But Mr. Hammond, you go ahead and start looking into that. If you need any assistance from the court, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the state? Anything with the fence?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, folks.